Hello, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live panel discussion on youth-led innovations, shaping the future with GenAI. I'm Anu Shekhar. I'm Senior Director for the Skills for Social Impact team here at Microsoft. And I'm thrilled to be hosting this conversation with our esteemed panelists who are joining us today, who are all remarkable leaders working towards bringing GenAI to young people in diverse, culturally relevant, and engaging ways. And I have to say, what would a panel be about youth-led innovation without young people? So we're very excited to have two youth innovators who are joining us today, who are leveraging the power of GenAI themselves to drive meaningful change. So to quickly introduce the panelists, the first panelist we have with us today is Pia Rebello Britto. She's the Global Director for Education from UNICEF, and she will share with us insights from UNICEF's recently released report, which is titled The Time to Act, Preparing Youth for Work in an AI-Powered World. Pia is also joined by a special guest today, Kevin Frey, who is the CEO of UNICEF's Generation Unlimited. So very excited to have Pia and Kevin here with us today. Another panelist we have joining us today is Maryam Bello, who is a young impact entrepreneur from Nigeria and a UNICEF YPAT, which is the Young People's Action Team, and working on healthcare access and AI innovation. We also have Andreas SCHLEICHER from the OECD, from the Directorate of Education, who will provide us with valuable perspectives on the skills gap and the youth opportunity challenge that we face today. We also have with us today Taha Bawa, who is the CEO of Goodwall, who will be discussing the Goodwall GenAI for Youth program and its impact on empowering young people. And last but not the least, we have Naim Muniru, who is a passionate AI enthusiast from Ghana and one of the GenAI for Youth program winners. So very excited to be joined by these esteemed panelists today. First, I'm going to ask to join us here. The first person I'm going to ask is Pia Rebello Britto, Global Director for Education and Adolescent Development at UNICEF. Pia, you're a critical leader in the education space, and I believe you have a presence in over 190 countries with your work. So let's turn to you. And my first question to you really is, what are some of the key findings that you're seeing in this report, The Time to Act, Preparing Youth for Work in the AI-Powered World, that's been published by UNICEF and Generation Unlimited? And how does that really set the scene for effective youth engagement?
Thanks for the question, Anu, and thanks for having me here. I'm genuinely excited to dive right into it because this report isn't just another document. It's a global megaphone for over the 53,000 young voices from across 180 plus countries who contributed, and their message is loud and clear. We need change. We need it now. So as we listen to them, what are some main takeaways? And I want to spotlight three for us. The first, Gen AI is rewriting the rules, and it's doing it fast. We're actually watching the future unfold. We're talking about massive shifts in the world of work, especially for those just stepping into their careers. Entry-level jobs are disappearing, automation is accelerating, and young people are being told to adapt. But who is handing them the playbook for that? And this is where I want to double click on a point. We need tech skills, but honestly, more than that, we need human skills. We need empathy, creativity, collaboration, the kind of things that machines can't learn. It's time to put that at the center of every curriculum. The second takeaway is that Gen AI could either level the playing field or blow it wide open. So if we are building AI without equity, what kind of a system are we creating? This smarter system, it has to be one that brings in more inclusion. So right now, 2.6 billion, that's about 1 in 3, don't have internet access. And I want to tell you, this is not random. Girls, young women, young people with disabilities are consistently left out. So if we have to design this future with intentional inclusion, let's make sure access, opportunity, and outcomes are fair and equitable. And the third takeaway is this isn't a solo mission. No single government, company, or organization can go it alone. We need a coalition of action, public and private, global and local, with young people leading from the front. And here at UNICEF, we are clear, not as tokens, but as co creators. And that's why I think this report hits different. Young people don't just give input, they help shape it. They ask the tough questions, they set the priorities, they made sure equity stayed front and center. So, from this report, there are some calls to action, and I'm going to be bold about them. First, let's close the digital divide once and for all. Make Gen AI skilling content free and accessible to every young person. Scale up training, no more pilots. It's time for scale and double down on human skills that Gen AI can't replace. So, a big shout out to UNICEF's Young People's Action Team who brought the focus to equity in this report. I'm thrilled Maryam, one of the leaders, is going to be here with us today. And after you read the report, you will also conclude, like I did, young people shouldn't just be part of the conversation, they should be running it. So I'm going to hand over to my dear colleague, Kevin Frey, CEO of Generation Unlimited, to share his take, because this is a moment for bold ideas, shared leadership, and joint action.
Thanks, Pia. I couldn't agree more. When we're talking about the labor markets of tomorrow, and actually the labor markets of today, every young person needs to have AI skills. That's why we're so excited about our partnership, both in the past with Microsoft, but more importantly in the future. We've already skilled and certified 4.5 million young people on the Passport to Earning platform. But by 2030, we want to have skilled 20 million and certified young people with AI skills. But that's only possible when we have exceptional corporate partners like Microsoft in technology, resources, support, know-how, content. But then other partners, our civil society partners, our tech partners like Goodwall, who's here today, and some of the other young innovators. Governments have to come together with the private sector and with young people if we're going to make sure that we don't have a K-shaped future. And that K-shaped future would be one where a small number of young people get all of the gains from AI because they have the access and they have the skills. Well, everyone else who doesn't have access to AI and don't have the skills they need are left behind. So let's all come together and make sure that every young person on this planet have the AI skills they need to compete in the labor markets of the future.
Pia, thank you so much. Your words have been truly inspiring. One of the things you said in particular that stood out to me was the phrase intentional inclusion. And I think that's something that, as you said, we need to collectively work towards to prevent that digital divide. You talked about some of the calls to action that have been made in this report. And, one of the calls to action was about ensuring that every young person has the skills to thrive and adapt, as you said, in tomorrow's workforce. How much progress has been made on this since September when the report was released? And what are still some of the gaps and challenges that you're seeing?
Thanks, Anu. That's a really good question. And I have to say, this partnership we have is so, so very exciting because the digital world is evolving at such lightning speed. But the good news is we're not watching it. We can drive it change. So we're doing this together. And what we're seeing across the board is bold, innovative solutions that are emerging from helping to equip every young person, no matter their gender, geography, or background, with, as you mentioned, the skills they need to thrive in this AI-powered world. So you asked for some concrete examples on what's going on. Let me tell you what I mean. The AI Foundations Pathway, launched through UNICEF's Generation Unlimited Passport to Earning platform, or P2E. P2E is not just a digital learning tool. It's a global platform that's already reached 4 million young people with skills for work and life. And I love it that more than half of them are girls and young women. From the AI Foundations Pathway, we've generated GenAI training directly into the platform. So it covers everything from AI fundamentals to responsible use to ethics, self-growth, and cultural impact. As you said, it was just launched last year. Thanks to the amazing support from Microsoft and Accenture, this program is now live in countries from Brazil to Rwanda, covering over 100,000 young people. They've already completed these AI focused courses. And as we speak, the numbers are only going up. So that's where we've gone. But how do we drive change? Because I said in the opening, we're not going to watch it. We're going to drive it. What's our vision? And here we aim by 2027 to equip 8 million more young people with Gen AI skills and millions more by 2030, really including girls and young women. For UNICEF, this part of the vision is all about scale, ambition, and impact. Another good example is Goodwall GenAI for youth programs, a collaboration with Yoma, Microsoft, and Goodwall. And I'm excited Taha is here with us and he's going to talk more about what this is doing for young people, especially at this critical age from the transition to high school into work, the 16 to 24 age, where often they don't have a tech background. And you will be excited to hear how the gamified peer-to-peer challenges are building real-world AI skills. It's a fun, accessible way to do it. So I'm just giving you the sneak peek. Taha is going to have a lot more to say. But it's actually a good time because I want to take a pause here, Anu. What I want to say is at UNICEF, we believe we cannot stop at innovation. This is exciting innovation, but it's really the innovation to implementation pathway that is critical. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that this tech revolution has to reach every young person, especially in low and middle income countries where the young people are facing multiple barriers. This means the real world challenges like poor internet, lack of devices, social norms that keep girls and young women offline. We have to identify and build the bridges across this divide. This digital divide cannot remain. And of course, the most obvious will be let's do it with infrastructure. But there are other bridges we can build, localized content, community support. Let's bring them in because for us at UNICEF, equity in Gen AI skilling means much more than access. It means outcomes. It means every young person is not only learning these skills, but using them to shape their own future.
Pia, thank you. I could, completely agree with what you said about really working together to remove some of those barriers that exist today with the digital divide and to get ahead of that when it comes to AI. Huge thank you also to you and to Kevin Frey and the Generation Unlimited team for the trusted partnership we've had over the many years, and very excited about some of the work that we are driving together to reach the scale that you mentioned in terms of getting to millions of youth. Final question to you, Pia, before we move to some of the other panelists. You mentioned at the start, I think you used the word coalition. What do you see as the role of the stakeholders around the table today to ensure that we're approaching this together, collectively, in a systematic way?
Thanks, Anu. And this theme, I think, draws through our conversation today on inclusion and bringing everyone together. That's really the heart of it. And I mentioned the 4 calls to action that really require us to collaborate across public, private sector, and the young people at the forefront. So let's start with the key stakeholder, which are the education providers. Honestly, this is the front lines of transformation. Teachers are the unsung heroes. They need to be empowered with the tools, the training, and the space to grow alongside their students. Ministries of education must be part of the change by aligning policies, curricula, and assessments so AI literacy becomes a part of every learner's journey. Non-formal education providers also play a key role, and they are well positioned to plug the gaps that we are seeing currently in the formal systems, and this can be integrated over time. I want to bring in parents and communities. How critical are they to supporting young people as we rise to new challenges, embrace new technologies and AI? They must be supported to come along on this journey. But then, as you know, we have to go outside national ecosystems, these education ecosystems, to the United Nations. We have to do our part to ensure equity. We have to prioritize this in every AI policy framework on inclusion, on being ethical and child-centered. And UNICEF's AI strategy highlights this. We must avoid AI development that's concentrated only in a few wealthy nations. and make sure every child's right is protected. Now, a key partner, as you well know, in all this work are NGOs and civil societies. And I talked earlier about bridge building. They are our bridge builders. They can help amplify the voice of those who are most marginalized, whether it's girls in rural areas, displaced youth, learners with disabilities. NGOs know not only how to tailor solutions, but co-create them. And we need them for that. We need the private sector. Their role is amazing and important in scaling it, from tech companies developing tools and infrastructure to employers helping us understand what is the future of jobs, what does industry require, how can they be part of the solution, and the most important, young people. Honestly, we have to start looking at them not as learners, but as leaders, not as learners, but as designers, not just as learners, but as innovators. And by bringing all the stakeholders together in these roles they have, I think the impact can be great. So I'm thrilled to be here today alongside colleagues from organizations like Microsoft, Goodwall, OECD. We see already the partnership forming. And of course, I think we have young leaders like Maryam, Veronica, and others who are going to show us what's possible when youth are given the trust and tools to lead. So I want to close by saying my call is simple. Let's work with young people. It's not just for them. Let's act now together to help them prepare and shape the future they want and they deserve. Thanks.
Pia, thank you so much. This truly sets the tone and the scene for our panel today. And, when it comes to scaling effective training programs and interventions for young people, as you said, we need to have them in the center of the design and really ensure that they help us democratize AI as an inclusive and an empowering tool. So that really leads me to our next panelist, Maryam Bello, who is an impact entrepreneur and also part of the UNICEF YPAT, that's the Young People's Action Team. Maryam, we are so excited to have young people like you with us today, being a part of this discussion that we're having on youth-led innovations. My first question to you is, what roles do you think young people should play when it comes to designing and leading the future of AI?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be responding to this question because I'm a youth, and I would start by saying that young people are not just users of AI. We are actually those people that determine how it's used and how it's built and where it's applied. And so I'm going to use myself as an example. As a young person who started a healthcare initiative, there was nothing like technology initially in what I was running. And so basically all we wanted to do was solve a problem. That curiosity comes with someone being a youth, right? We wanted to solve a problem. But at some point we realized something. Accessibility is an issue, right? And if accessibility is an issue, what is the best way to ensure that people have access, even for, because we're focusing on floods, even when floods is an issue? And so technology was the answer. But along the line, it wasn't just as effective as we wanted to do or to create that solution. And then with the rampant spread of generative AI, we figured out, okay, how can we ensure that if we don't have health workers that are ready to respond to our target audience, then we definitely have at least something else to help us out with it. And generative AI was used. This is where we learned to localize data and help train AI models. And this goes to show that youth are not just users of AI, but youth are those co-creators and co-developers of contextual innovation. And then we are also guardian of ethics and inclusion, because when we're talking about youth, including them in AI, and then we're talking about youth from low and middle income countries, or we're talking about youth from the global south, then you begin to realize that, looking at the United Nations risk reports, youth are the largest population we have in the world. And therefore, when we have youth that are leveraging AI, then it brings about ethics, guardian of ethics and inclusion. And then youths are obviously the catalysts for digital equity, because as I made mention of, those that don't have access to the data and all, or those that don't have access to AI, when we have youth using AI, we are more inclusive in nature. That is just the truth about youths. So when we have youths that are leveraging this, it brings about digital equity. And like myself, an entrepreneur, we're already solving the problem that communities face. And if you look at low and middle income countries or very underserved communities, we have youths who are focusing on building so many solutions. And today, these solutions are creating massive change in the world. And so we are also policy shapers, because right now I'm speaking to you as a youth and my voice matters. This is the reason why you have me here today on this call. And when other young leaders, global leaders, listen to this conversation, it is also going to help reshape policy, especially when it comes to AI and how youths are involved in it. And that also makes us intergenerational bridge builders. So if we really want youth to be, we want AI to be more human-centered, ethical, and impactful, then youth voices can't be optional. We're not just the future, we are the disruptors, the designers, and the doers right now.
Love that, Maryam. Youth voices cannot be optional in the design of technologies. And I think you also said youth are the catalysts of driving digital equity, and couldn't agree more with that. You mentioned the UN report, the UNICEF's essentially Time to Act report, which talks about the digital divide and how it continues to impact youth. From your perspective, what do you think are the most effective ways to ensure that young people can access and learn about generative AI?
Okay, whenever I like to talk about young people, I try to focus on those from low and middle income communities, because there's always this digital divide and lack of equity when it comes to accessibility of technology and artificial intelligence. So I came across one very important write-up. This is not about AI, but it goes like this. China sells a lot to Africa, not quality, but to the people. And the reason why China is succeeding in Africa in business is because China sells accessibility, not the highest quality that people cannot access. And so when we're looking at the digital divide and accessibility between young people, then we have to look at how we can create a solution or approach it in a way that meets the understanding of these people or meets them at the level where they are currently at, so that it is easier for them to adopt, it is easier for them to understand. And then when we talk about the education aspect, we need to have AI in our school's curriculum. For someone like me, I never learned about AI in school. It was curiosity. And that is the beautiful thing about being a youth, right? So when we have AI embedded in our curriculums, then we have to ensure that it is learner-centered, it is understandable, and it is action-oriented, because we don't just want to talk. That's not how youths of this day are. We are so curious, but we also want to implement. And this is one of the very important criteria that I think we need to ensure that we have when it comes to trying to bridge that gap. And then we have a lot of youth entrepreneurs, especially those that are from low and middle income countries. And we tend to focus on entrepreneurship, especially when you're talking about the context of Africa, which brings about me thinking, how about we fund more youth-led innovation ecosystems? This would help build about job creation for youth, also help secure a very or more empowered future for young people. And then we also need to learn to translate AI into local languages and real-life context. Because if we are serious about bridging the digital divide, we have to stop asking young people to catch up and start building with them from the ground up, because generative AI must be localized, democratized, and youth-led.
Absolutely. I think helping youth catch up and get ahead of some of the opportunity before it's too late, right? So thank you for highlighting that. The last question I have for you is, if we want to see more youth-led innovations using GenAI, what would you recommend to decision makers who are working in education, training, digital skills? Essentially, a lot of the folks who are listening in right now, tell us your recommendations.
Well, the truth is, if you look at the reality today, a lot of youths are already brimming with so many ideas. We're not lacking ideas. We have that idea within us. So what we need as youth, especially when it comes to support, is to build that innovation pipeline, not just events, and to focus on outcomes and not just activities. Because when there are like programs for youths, for instance, you just have a training for International Day of AI, something like that. And when there's a program like that and that's it, then nothing comes out of it. So we have to focus on supporting youths in terms of outcome and not just activities. And then we also need to understand that if we're targeting low and middle income youths, some of them do not have that capacity to get to a certain stage. Let's say we're talking about business in this context. Some of them do not have that capacity to get to that stage without some certain form of support, which is the reason why it is good to fund youth at early stage of research and development. And then we finally have to move from youth to for youth to with youth. Thank you.
Love that. For youth to with youth. And maybe some combination of both, right? For youth and with youth. Maryam, I think I can safely say on behalf of everyone listening today, I think you have inspired us all. Thank you so much. You provided some very definite calls to action for us to collectively, further build on the educational and training footprint so that we're working together to drive those goals. Thank you so much, Maryam.
Thank you so much.
Andreas SCHLEICHER, you're joining us today from the Directorate of Education and Skills at the OECD. And, if I can ask you, building on the perspectives shared so far, we're looking forward to hearing your insights regarding youth opportunity challenge and skills gap in the AI economy. So my first question to you really is, how can education systems and learning institutions better support the preparation of young people for their working lives?
For a start, I just want to show you how much of a difference skills make for the future of people these days in the world of artificial intelligence. When you look at the chart, you can see the modern economy still rewards you for formal education, the number of years you have studied. But you can see also very clearly that what you know, what you can do with what you know makes such a difference these days. So the skills are so important. Then, there are other things as well. You can see, what you study makes a little bit of a difference, but actually a lot less than you might think. You can be incredibly successful almost in any educational pathways. How long you've been in the job and some personal characteristics, but the dominant part is really, the skill set you have. And what we have also seen is when you look over the last decade, it is the skills that have, increased in their value on labor market outcomes, on social outcomes, on civic participation. So many, many dimensions where we can see. Now your question, how we can engage young people. When we look at schooling and we ask people, why didn't you come to school for a long time? Of course, there is sickness, but the biggest factor after that is that young people feel bored. If you were running a supermarket and every, day you find that from 100 customers, 30 walk out without buying anything from you. And you see that today and tomorrow and the year after, you change your inventory. And we see too little of that happening in education. It's not about, making learning hours longer. It's making learning more relevant, more engaging, more interesting for young people. And technology can be the driver for this. Technology can make learning so much more personal, so much more adaptive, so much more interactive. It can give teachers so many better signals about how different students learn differently. Let me show one more dimension on that. We looked at young people who aspire to a STEM career, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the kind of jobs that, still have a large premium. And you can see it varies hugely across countries. You can see, for example, in countries that do very well in academic performance, you look at Finland, you look at China, you look at Japan, Korea, those countries are incredibly successful in getting young people doing well on tests of, scientific subjects. But you can see they're not very successful in attracting young people into STEM careers. Young people, have learned all of this stuff in school, but they have not, developed that energy, that curiosity to move on. You look at the United States, actually the education system is not that successful in STEM skills, but young people have that energy. They want to move in those kinds of futures now. How do we can reconcile this now? And you can see the answer to this is very clear. If you do not enjoy learning science, doing better on a test will not lead you into a STEM career. If you enjoy science, if science is something that you see as opening life opportunities, you can see that relationship between, performance in the subject and career aspirations becomes really, really strong. So that is the answer, really. We need to make learning more relevant, more engaging, more interactive, giving young people more ownership over what they learn and how they learn and where they learn and when in their lives they learn.
I think so well said, Andreas, and so many powerful words there. I think making it as relevant as possible for youth and really adapting. And I think you use the word skills inventory, right? So that's an interesting thing, really keeping that updated. Let's dig in a little bit deeper into that. What are some of the skills gaps that you're seeing when it comes to AI and career readiness?
Yeah, I want to start with something that should be so obvious. We looked at creativity, your capacity to do things, to build things, to imagine. And what we have seen is that in most jurisdictions, 15-year-olds are less creative than 10-year-olds. If I would tell you here, your 15-year-olds do worse in mathematics than your 10-year-olds, you would tell me, well, there's something going wrong in education. But that's what we see, our compliance-based culture and education that makes you believe in some things rather than makes you question things, produces that, reduction in the energy of the AI world. Now, so how can we do better? Actually, one of the sources is the mindset that we build among young people. You can see here on this chart very clearly where education systems build more of a growth mindset among young people. It depends. If I invest my effort, I trust my teacher to help me, and I'm going to be successful. Where that is the mindset of young people, education systems tend to be also successful academically. Where education systems, build a fixed mindset, it's all about the intelligence you were born with, education systems are not particularly successful. But coming more to creativity, how can we foster creativity? It has to do with the mindset, the attitudes that we build among people. You can see young people who are better in imagination, more adventurous, are better in creative thinking. Young people who are open to intellect, enjoying doing something creative, looking at multiple solutions, different angles, different ways to see the world, tend to be more creative. Young people open to art and experience. Often we treat art as a kind of extracurricular subject, but you can see it is an important driver of creative skills. And then, your sense of self-efficacy, also really important. But there's one more dimension that we, should, not forget, and that is the social and emotional skills that people have. If you're learning how to take different perspectives, see problems from different angles, appreciate different ways of thinking, different cultures, you're going to be more creative. Curiosity, obvious driver, persistence. Creativity is not just about having a great idea, but it's very much also about being very organized, very systematic in doing things. Being resilient to stress, reinventing yourself when the world changes, being assertive, being social, cooperative, being able to manage your emotions. All of those are ingredients of, the AI skills that will help us in the future. So our education systems, yes, they need to teach young people knowledge, but they also really need to develop those attitudes, this expectation, and those kinds of social and emotional attributes. Now, those are in the AI world, the skills are not just about technical skills. In fact, they may be less important than we think, but those kinds of dispositions, attitudes, mindsets, they really drive our success in the States.
As you said, those dispositions, attitudes, mindsets. Question to you, and this is the final question before we move to some of the other panelists. How can we prioritize those key human skills and that will really, as you said, set workers apart in this age of AI?
Yeah, if you ask yourself, what do you really value in education? What should, learning, be? The first thing, probably we all agree, it should help you figure out why you are here on this planet, where you want to make a difference. Now, it should help you, find out where you can become really, really good at. And that may be a niche that nobody has been in before. But, what makes us happy in life is typically making a difference to other people, to our communities, our societies. And then last but not least, translate your skills into a better job and better lives. So when you look at, where countries come out on this, many people would look to Japan as an education system that has been incredibly successful in building academic skills. But, when you look a little bit deeper, you find that Japanese kids are not that happy. They show actually not a great level of agency and engagement, being able to mobilize their cognitive, social, emotional skills. And they're not great in emotional resilience, being able to reinvent yourself when AI is changing the context around you, and so on. You look at the United States, interesting example, academically not as strong as Japan, kids not being particularly happy. But one area where American kids are really good is in agency, being able to do things, being able to try out things, being able to take risks. And those are very, very important ingredients in this AI world. But you can do even better. You look at a country like Denmark that gets almost anything right. You can see those kids are academically talented. They are happy kids. They have a great level of agency and capacity, very resilient. They show strong social relationships. They are able to manage their own lives. They are open to new ideas and new perspectives. So you can actually see we can build that kind of combination of skills that will drive people to be successful. It is about the learning environment that we provide for young people. Can you do the experiment rather than having someone talk to you about it? And once again, technology, is a great enabler to build the kind of attitudes and expectations that help people to be successful.
Absolutely. I think couldn't agree more. As you said, technology can be an enabler to also help build this sort of well-rounded education for the youth of today as we think about the age of AI. Andreas, thank you so much. Your data and insights that you've shown have truly been eye-opening and really helpful as we work collectively on this effort. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
And with that, I think it's a great segue to bring in Taha Bawa, who is the co-founder and CEO of Goodwall. And we're going to talk about, out-of-the-box education solutions to GenAI. So first question to you, Taha. Thank you so much for joining us. How can we reach women, youth, and those that tend to be more marginalized with culturally relevant and localized educational content?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just on the back end of a three-week trip between Rwanda, Saudi, and DC, just flying in yesterday. And what I see as being a truth in all of those contexts are the type of skills needed for young people in an AI-first world. We need deep adaptability, resilience. We need incredible human skills, as was said by Pia and others. We need AI fluency. And finally, we need industry-specific skills that are leveraging AI, whether one is a farmer, a marketer, or a technologist. And within that context, we cannot afford to leave anyone behind. And we believe, the way to achieve that is technology that is built for young people through a user experience that they understand, largely mobile, peer-to-peer. So in a world of AI, role models and peer-to-peer remains more important, or if not, has become more important than ever before. And finally, partnerships. So public-private partnerships in order to achieve the scale that is needed and the contextualization that is needed. The way we do this, Anu, the way we do this within the AI Fluency program is we take Microsoft's amazing content. When it comes to AI Fluency, we make it fun, we make it engaging, we contextualize it to local areas where we're leveraging local creators. It changes almost within a country, not even country by country, within a socioeconomic area, within a background. And we get those local creators to distribute and to share their perspective of that content. We then have young people participate in these challenges that are fun, that give out prizes, they give out celebrations of success, and we leverage them as role models and peer-to-peer learning experiences for each other. Young people today, if I just give a concrete example of how one learns about entrepreneurship, even in my own example, I learned about entrepreneurship by watching Shark Tank. I didn't learn about entrepreneurship through the PDF or the PowerPoint presentation that my MBA gave me. And we're replicating the same thing when it comes to learning about AI, which is through experiential learning. Once the fluency is done, the journey really begins. We're able to then show them what is possible leveraging that AI fluency in certain industries. So if you take what we're doing with the program is we've got that first level, but now we're bringing on other partners, industry leaders, so corporate private sector partners that are leading the way in certain industries. And we're including their content and saying, okay, how can you now leverage AI when you're looking at the green transition in energy, when you're looking at farming, when you're looking at marketing? And so the journey continues. And finally, to wrap it up, that those human skills, communications, empathy, deep resilience. And we have challenges on that. So it's AI fluency alongside those deeper skills in specific industries, and then finally the human skills.
I love the way you put it, Taha. And, you talked about your GenAI for Youth program. Tell us a little bit more about that. How does that do what you said of really meeting the young people in their specific local context?
So we know we have to change the way young people are learning. We know we need to do it fast. We know it needs to be profound, and it has to be global. The way we're doing it is really in two phases. The first is us at Goodwall, alongside partners like Microsoft, alongside the private sector, and certain organizations such as GenU and UNICEF are able to move fast, i.e., within a year, we can show a clear roadmap. We can take risks, we can move agile, and we can iterate on our learnings. In doing so, what we're able to do is show to curriculum designers and to policymakers what needs to be done. Unfortunately, it is impossible to change curriculum and policy fast enough. It requires resources, it requires bold leadership, and simply time. Curriculum takes time to adjust. We need to buy them time and cut down that time as much as possible. And we're doing that by giving them the data and including them in our learnings and on our journey. By working alongside GenU and UNICEF, we bring these ministers into the journey and into our learnings, setting them a playbook that they can adopt as soon as they're ready. Now, tactically, what we're doing is we're distributing this content directly to the young person, largely peer-to-peer, leveraging our ambassadors and certain partners who we're able to contextualize the content for further. We leverage these role models for further contextualization, as I mentioned earlier. We focus on experiential learning, we focus on peer-to-peer, and we leverage a user experience that really speaks to young people. Finally, it's leveraging a partnership. As you mentioned at the beginning, no one organization can do this themselves. And I think something we're so grateful and proud of within this alliance and within this program is the willingness for partners to come together, not work in silos, combine resources, and play to their respective strengths. And in doing so, actually have a chance of meeting the need, not just having a chance, hopefully we're going to beat it, in meeting the need that is so profound.
Thank you, Taha. And it's been great to partner with you in this regard as well. And, really love the innovative approach that you have of truly, for the youth, by the youth, I think is the principle that you're following. How can industry, you mentioned industry, IGOs, NGOs, all leaning in to come together. How can they all collaborate in a most effective way on these youth-led interventions when it comes to GenAI for Youth program?
So when we think of NGOs and civil society, we would love for you to be able to share this with your young people for them to participate on one hand. And we can really contextualize, localize it to your young people at no additional cost. Just reach out and we'll make it happen. Separately, we would love to leverage some of your local or regional role models as creators and as success stories for other young people and for their constituents. So I'd say reach out, it costs nothing. And in fact, we can even provide rewards and prizes for your young people to make sure this is relevant for them and that they are engaged, as Andreas said. When it comes to corporates and private sector organizations that are leading the way in their fields, we would love to work alongside you and have you help us drive content in the area that you are an expert in, complementing the work of the other great organizations and building on the vision that Microsoft set.
Taha, thank you so much. As I mentioned, we're so excited for this partnership to expand, scale, and also become inclusive of geographies that are often underserved to truly meet young people where they're at in their learning journey. So thank you. And as you said, this is a call really inviting other industry, NGO, and educational partners to join forces with us in this in this gamified immersive learning experience for youth that you've set up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I am now very excited to bring into the discussion Naim Muniru, who is a passionate AI enthusiast from Ghana and is one of the GenAI for Youth program winners who has demonstrated exceptional commitment to expanding his knowledge and applying AI in meaningful ways in his daily life. So, Naim, welcome to the conversation. Very excited to hear from you on what matters really when it comes to GenAI. So, first question to you is, you recently won what's called the AI for Life Challenge with Goodwall. And, it was about using GenAI on a day-to-day basis. Can you tell us a little bit more about your winning entry, what your experience been through participating in this Goodwall GenAI for Youth program? Also share some insights with us.
All right. Thank you very much for the question. I'm so excited to be here with you all. My journey with the GenAI Challenge has been a remarkable positive change in terms of how it has helped me to reshape my mindset. And also as a person who is currently reading my master's in international management, and AI being one of the tools that we are looking how we can utilize it to revolutionize Africa as a whole and also get the benefit of it. So for my entry challenge, I was creating a content. First of all, I wanted to create a poem about climate change, how we can use poem or more or less like storytelling to advocate for climate change. And I decided to use AI to help me refine the poem that I wanted to, write and then do my spoken word. And at the end of the day, it was amazing because I was able to get what I wanted to do. And of course, the message was very clear, concise, as well as thought-provoking for Goodwall audience. That really gave me remarkable comments at the end of the day. And some of the other challenges with the Gen I challenge, particularly that I participated, I created a climate change content about how climate change is affecting communities. And I was able to bring this particular idea to life by using AI to create visuals that help me tell my story and also help me to get people really connect to the story that I'm telling, and as well get the message that I want to get to my audience. And currently, like I said, working on a research paper on how smaller markets in Africa respond to the evolutionary dynamics of AI ecosystem. So this challenge has been an incredible hallmark of how I have reshaped my thinking and how I can really leverage on AI to help solve societal problems.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that, and really great to hear about how you're not only using it on a day-to-day basis, but using it truly for meaningful impact. Naim, there are a lot of young people today that are unsure on, where they can start with AI, how AI can be of use, or how it can be a tool for them in their work, in their life, or as an entrepreneur. Can you share some highlights as to what you find most transformational about AI?
So what I found so transformational for my initial start was AI is just there to help us rethink about how we can create solutions to tackling global challenges, and also how we can unearth our potentials and transform our future as young people. Besides, a lot of people always have the reservation, like you made mention of young people not really trusting AI, and even in our part of our world where we believe not to use AI to do certain things, which is so much something that I am against of. And I think the problem has to do with our understanding of AI, and also how we think AI is coming to replace our job opportunities, or even replace what we can do as human beings, even our thinking capacities. But as young people, what I would like to let you know is that AI is the future. AI has come to help us rethink about how we create solutions. AI has come to let us know that we can really make things easier for ourselves and our planet. And AI has, come to really help us create solutions that really focus not just now, but for the future. So it's all about our thinking and how we have, preconceived what society has really made us to believe, but which is certainly not the case. So young people, we have to embrace AI. AI is the future. We have to accept the fact that we can only become better with AI. AI is not replacing us. AI can never replace us. Besides, we as human beings would really tell AI what we want AI to do for us. So why would AI replace our jobs, replace our future, replace our everyday ways of doing things?
Humans are in charge, right? Humans are at the center of it all in terms of using and being empowered by the technology. Can you share some examples? You made a call to the young people who are maybe listening today. Can you share some examples that you've seen of young people using GenAI to shape the future, and talk about how that might inspire others?
Yeah, for instance, the Goodwall community is one of the great platforms that young people are really utilizing AI to shape our future and also help create positive impact in our society. For instance, like I made mention of the climate change content that I created, it wouldn't have been better off with anything other than the AI that I use to create the visuals that I wanted to use for this particular content. And this content has reached a lot of audience, and people have, reached out to me concerning some of the things that I shared they could use in, day out to help keep climate change. And that is the impact we want to create. And that is the solution that we want the world to know that we can utilize AI to help solve. And other things that I have seen young people doing very well is, for instance, the zip line, which was developed by a young person, and now it is helping people to be able to to deliver blood donations to hospitals using AI-powered drones. These are incredible solutions that they are using to bridge the gap between rural communities who were not able to have access to blood, especially people maternal mortality was higher in some part of Ghana, but now because of the presence of Zipline, they are able to deliver blood on time to help mothers deliver perfectly and also become fit at the end of the day. I've also seen other AI that has been used to develop solutions in other sectors, like predicting plant diseases, helping to optimize the whole process. AI is also helping in supply chain and a whole lot of things. And I could remember a friend of mine too who is using AI nowadays to help solve problems with regards to girls in tech, and also how girls can leverage on AI to help better their digital skills and transform their future. So AI is just something that we have to give credit, and we have to give trust. All we have to do is to just learn it, know how to use it, and then it will help us.
Absolutely. Lean into it and really help gain the skills that we need now and that young people need now to be able to get ahead of some of the opportunities that will come from it, right? So, Naim, thank you so much. I think it's been so inspiring to hear about your journey with AI and how you are inspiring other young people around the world as well to be able to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you. This has been such an amazing discussion. To close out this very lively panel that we've had today, I'm going to ask some of the panelists to describe what is one word that you would use to describe AI's impact on youth, and tell us why. So, Taha, we'll go to you first, and then we'll go to Andreas.
Profound. As said by others on this panel, it can either truly level the playing field or not. As optimists, and I think if we give them the right tools and the right enabling environment, it truly can level the playing field.
Love that. Profound. Andreas?
Empowering. AI can super empower young people. It can also disempower them, but it really is that force that can give everybody a voice.
Empowered. Thank you. Maryam, we'll go to you now to help us close this out. What is one word from your perspective that you would use to describe AI's impact on youth, and tell us why?
AI on youth, impacting youth, is a very big enabler. And the reason why I say that is, I mean, there are so many talks about the negativity of AI and all, but if we look on the bright side, AI makes life easier, right? And youths already have these ideas that are capable of changing the world, ideas that are capable of disrupting the world in a very positive way. And so AI is an enabler for that. And when leveraged in the bright way, especially now when we're talking about how governments can support with these, how leaders can support with these, how we can put this in the education system, then we have to look at it in a way of it's enabling and empowering youth to create impact in a very faster way and in a way that creates ripple effects of impact. Because AI is like a model. I don't want to go into the technical part, but AI modeling AI technology makes it easy to replicate. And those replication creates about ripple effect of impact in a very fast way, in a very quick way, and in a very large scale. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maryam.
Thank you too.
Thank you all so much again for joining us today for this panel discussion that we've had on youth-led innovations shaping the future with GenAI. It has been truly informative to hear from our panelists today and from our youth innovators who are at the forefront of leveraging GenAI to drive change. You know, as we conclude, I just wanted to reflect on some of the key points or key themes that have been coming up through the course of our discussion. I would say one theme that's come up really is about driving innovation, innovative educational solutions, and really keeping youth at the center of that design. Another theme that I think has been coming up is collaboration and partnerships and really working together, bringing the whole ecosystem together to be able to collectively drive this impact. And the third theme, really speaking of impact, is to drive that impact, drive the skills development to really help get ahead of some of the challenges we might see with the digital divide and to help young people thrive and gain the skills that they need to be able to succeed in this AI economy. So, you know, with that, I also wanted to add my word for what it's worth. I asked the panelists about the one word that they have as they think about the youth for today. My one word would be optimism. I truly think the future is bright with the youth at the center of this new technology, of this new AI era that we're in. And it is, you know, I'm truly very excited for what we have and the vast opportunity that lies ahead. Thank you so much for joining.